Þóra, bardagamaðurinn sem dó smánardauða. Þér hefur verið veitt tækifæri til að breyta örlögum þínum. Sannaðu þig fyrir goðunum og öðlastu inngöngu í Valhalla. Uppgötvaðu leyndardóma ginnungagaps. Bindu földu rúnirnar. Þigðu blessanir goðanna og sigraðu hina máttugu jötna. Þóra, auvirðulegi bardagamaður, ekki mistakast að ávinna þér hillu goðanna.
Jotun is an action-adventure game and also the first title created by the indie developer Untitled Lotus. The game is mainly influenced by Norse mythology. Actually, the name Jotun kinda gives it away. Jotun means giants, a synonym for titans if you will. If you want to compare it to the Greek mythology, in that realm, the titans and the Greek gods did not necessarily get along, to put it mildly. And coincidentally, if you research the term Jotun, sometimes spelled differently, it states it's a race of giants that hated the Aesir's, which are the Norse gods. But enough about the similarities in mythologies. This indie title was released on September 29, 2015, and since then the version known as the Valhalla edition became available as the one and only version that you can find with this game. It features the main game, but along with it a mode called Valhalla mode. This mode is just simply a boss rush mode. I purchased this game on the PlayStation 4, so I'll be reviewing that version. So let's get into this review.
Ég man eftir hljóðinu, þegar viðurinn splundraðist, ýlfrinu í vindinu og öldu skellunum í andliti mínu. Húð mín frös og kulda sem var ólíkur öllu sem ég hafði áður upplifað og skipið okkar sökk.
The story of Jotun is focused around the main character Thora as she attempts to impress the gods by traveling to different realms, all of which houses a titan whose powers come from the natural elements that draw their power from. It is very important that she completes this task so she may enter Valhalla. Now, according to Norse mythology, Valhalla is the place you go when you die. It's kinda like heaven but for warriors who died in combat, proving themselves to be a manifestation of a true and honorable warrior to the gods. So, think about it. If she is tasked with getting into Valhalla, they can only mean one thing.
Æðarlausu djúpi sjávarins tók hálf gegnsætt net ránar við mér. Var dregin dýpra og dýpra í átt að gyðju sjávarins. Dauðinn var kominn til að sækja mig. Baráttuvilji sálar minnar myndi ekki nægja til að slökkva þorsta ránar í bráð sína. Myrkri kom, en þegar ég vaknaði ég ekki í höll þangs og beina, heldur í kyrrð og þögn.
Yes, she is dead, and judging by where she is brought to, it's safe to say that she did not make the cut. So given a second chance to prove herself once more, she sets out on a pilgrimage to slay the Jotuns in their own domains. If you have seen my review on Thunder Lotus' sophomore game Sundered, I stated that one of the things that the indie developers have mastered was the utilization and understanding of the terminology scope. This game possesses that with, dare I say, more detail than Sundered. For example, when you pay attention to some of the set pieces while traveling, you will see in full view where you will be journeying through. And in some instances, bosses are extremely hinted at before you will inevitably face off against them. There is much life in the vibrant colors your eyes are treated to. I don't believe it hides the fact that the developers wanted you to take some time out to acknowledge and take in the beautiful hand-drawn art. Each rich animation and detail frame by frame where the movement gives me the feeling as if I'm watching an illustration of a children's storybook come to life. This not only goes for the characters but also for the landscape and environments. Actually, the backdrops are just as much as a prevalent character as the main character is. You see massive creatures from time to time to interact with their environment. Some areas often has creatures and life forms that dwell in various unique landscapes. Some a bit intimidating while others can be cute and innocent. These creatures serve as an accommodation to the landscapes, all of which stands out individually, whether it's by the type of season or the color tones that influences the atmosphere of the land that you journey through. You can thank Joanne Gauthier and Alex Boyd for crafting and creating the art for this game that gives its authentic personality and unique identity in comparison to other games. The gameplay of Jotun is very basic in its approach regards to its mechanics. Dora is only equipped with an axe for a weapon of choice, which she uses for two forms of attack: quick light attacks and slow heavy attacks. The light attacks do chip damage to bosses and are lethal to normal enemies, but the heavy attacks, they can deal more damage and can also chop down trees and branches to open pathways while you explore. It can also be satisfying if you can find the time to coordinate your attack without being interrupted or misinterpreting the distance of the enemy from you. But for defensive measures or more like evasive maneuvers, she can dodge roll. As you play the game, you come across various monolith-like statues that grant you god-like abilities. They can only be used based on the numbers presented up under the icon that is located by your health bar. Since the game is centered around Norse mythology, each ability is based around the power their respective Norse god symbolizes. How and when you use them will ultimately be life or death in many cases, so use them wisely and sparingly. Dora is not as agile nor fast. She moves at her own pace for better or worse, so this only makes your decision of what course action to take to be a little bit more thoughtful, especially when understanding the timing of such actions. Combat is of course one aspect of the game, but another aspect is the exploration. Some, if not most rounds, require you to do a little bit of puzzle solving to get through them. For example, one round could possibly ask you to move across a pond in Pacific ways. Another could ask you to recreate the star constellations you will see, and so on and so forth. In the main hub, if you observe the drawings located at the center, it gives somewhat of a small representation of the maps located in each round. When you find the god statues that increase the amount of uses of your god powers, find Mimir's pawns that heals and restores you throughout your travels, and also certain monumental sceneries, their representation found in their drawings will glow up as well. The more you find, the better equipped you will be for the other rounds, so don't just rush through each world. Utilize your map to navigate through each round to acquire all that there is to acquire. Your map may show where these important places are located, however it does not display your exact pinpoint location of your character, so you must be able to pay attention to where you are and corresponding to your map. One helpful advice that you can always remember is that when you enter a realm, your entrance is always symbolized by the cloud icon located on your map. Now there are certain things that was somewhat of an annoyance to me, some of which was due to the learning curve that I had to overcome because of this game's pace and art style. Previously I've stated that the distance between you and your enemy could and can be misinterpreted when it comes to boss battles and you wanted to strike them. This is because of the art style, which the animations sometimes move about like what you will see in the Paper Mario game on the isometric platform. You see, when you are behind an enemy, you can see a silhouette of your character, but you don't know if you're close enough to hit it. This can be somewhat aggravating when you are charging up a heavy attack thinking that it will connect, only to be disappointed when it doesn't. The second criticism that I have is actually one of the game's strengths and weaknesses. During your exploration, the camera zooms out so you can see your surroundings, but in actual combat, it can be one of your biggest foes. The camera zooms out so much to the point where you lose track of your position and before you know it, it's game over. The music of Jotun is in many ways moving. The subtle to engrossing layers of string instruments with a bit of pizzicato on some of these tracks are my favorite. Some of these songs are relaxing, somber, and just beautiful. Songs like Constellations, where it feels like a delicate dance of fingers brushing across the strings, are creating somewhat of an introspective ballad of thought through its notes. What this OST shines the most is within its ability to convey that this game is about being on a journey with purpose. Its tone can be serious like in the song Storms, and in another entitled In Flames, which also gave me a classic Terminator vibes due to its drum section going in. Even though some songs come off as urgent, some can also have a balance of cartoonish playfulness due to the type of instruments that are being played and how they are played. For an example, the entitled Fehu, which has these blaring horns with the playing of the xylophone, still gives a sense of fun innocence. I took a look at the producer of who made the music of Jotun, and it was nobody other than Max LL, who was in fact the very same person who produced the music for Sunder. The music of Jotun is available where digital music is sold. I will have the links in the description for you to check it out for yourself. When you combine the music along with the voice of Thora, who gives exposition throughout the game, it makes it harder for the player not to be engaged and interested in all that occurs.
Hirðir höfuðkúpu ýmis, dvergurinn norðri, meistari norðanvindsins.
Speaking of Thora's dialogue, this is the second Untitled Lotus game that I've played with the language spoken as something that's foreign to me. Just like Sundered, even though the verbal language spoken is not a language I understand, it does not mean that it attracts any interest of the player. As a matter of fact, it adds to the overall experience. Not to mention the sound effects that go along with the visuals are just right. I used the headphone functions on my controller and played the game with my headphones on with the volume turned up. When the pillars are crumbling, Jotun screaming to emphasize how massive they are, hearing the metal from the blade sounding off when attacking. You feel all of this. So when it comes to the sound design of this game, it's just perfection. Now for the score. With my overall experience with Jotun, I'm going to give this game a 9.5 out of 10. This game took me about 2 weeks to beat, and that is only because of my other personal responsibilities I had to tend to. This game is a complete package. It's all there. The art is just right, the lore is engrossing, the gameplay is engaging. I was never bored, and other than the small criticisms I have, this game is awesome and is one that is unforgettable. With the price tag of only $15, I would consider this game a steal. Jotun is now available for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Steam, Wii U, and also for the Nintendo Switch. I suggest you pick up this game so you can try your hand at impressing the gods as well. As of this review, Untitled Lotus' new project entitled Spiritfarer has been teased. From the looks of it, it seems like the indie developers are taking a somewhat different pace yet again. Jotun and Sundered were adventure titles whose focus was on combat and exploration, but had distinct elements that differentiated themselves from each other. Jotun was like from a Zelda-esque perspective with puzzle elements, while Sundered was a 2D Metroidvania game with a focus on platforming. Now comparing these two titles, I have already had a somewhat grasp on Untitled Lotus' distinct style, such as their art and noticeable techniques they do when it comes to games. But this new title just shows that they are pushing the boundaries of what type of games that they can produce, not to mention their style. Where Jotun and Sundered comes off as loud and grandiose in nature, Spiritfarer comes off as a little bit more innocent and quiet as portrayed in its presentation. I'm looking forward to playing this game when it comes out for various reasons. I want to see how the indie developers have grown in their crafts, and what new story that they're going to tell, and what type of gameplay and elements they will utilize. Well, until next time, peace.